the Nature Company. Today we're going to show you what to do with your plants when you're looking to grow big specimens that you want as showpieces and to wow all your friends. You've been growing your plant for a couple of years, it's outgrowing its pot, it's had multiple blooms, you've had it for several blooming seasons, and now you really want to get the best out of your plant and you want everyone to stop and look and say wow. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to clean up all the old dead flowering spikes, clean up the plant a bit, and then we'll put them into the big pots. Okay, now with our larger plants, now that we've cleaned them all up so they're nice and clean and ready to be potted up, we want these to make beautiful specimen plants. So these are the pots I'm going to be showing you. Each type of pot, we're going to use a slightly different method of planting. Here, this deep pot here, we can see it's got a well at the bottom. So just to show you, this holds quite a large amount of water. So what we're going to be doing is we want to reduce the amount of water that this is going to take, and we also don't want the orchid mix to be sitting in water all the time to cause it to rot quickly. So what we're going to do is taking a nice loose gravel and we'll put it into the bottom of the pot, filling up the well at the bottom. This will still allow water to sit in the well, but not as much, without the bark rotting in it. There we go, we cover up and above where the holes are, making sure the bark stays well away from the water. So that one's going to be ready to be potted in. With this pot here, it's got a well at the bottom, but it's got a stand that drops in, and that will keep your orchid mix out of the water but still allow the humidity to come up and allow some of the water to be absorbed up into the material. This pot, it's got holes at the bottom, so we're not going to need to put any stone or anything at the bottom of that, and it doesn't need a well cover, so we can plant straight in. Okay, we're going to be using this big bark because they're such deep pots at the bottom. This is going to allow for the extra drainage. And it's going to keep your pots light and not filled with stone, so you are going to be able to move them around easily. Because orchids are relatively shallow rooted when they're rooting through the media, we can fill it up over halfway with the large bark, and that way we're not wasting our extra media. Here with the square pot, we're just going to be putting a thin layer of the large bark because it's a much shallower pot. With this pot, also just to make sure the drainage is good, we put some of the large bark at the bottom. This pot is going to get the larger growing orchid, the Alicera. So the Alicera's roots are going to go all the way down to the bottom of that. Now also it's an important part to remember choosing the color of your pot. You want the color of the pot that's going to look particularly good with the color of the flower. Yeah, the Multassia Royal Robe is going to look stunning against the grey, but the dark burgundy color is really going to be set off with the use of the grey. Okay, we're just going to be removing the Multassia from the pot just by squeezing the pot gently at the sides. Loosening the mix from around the root. All these roots are still fresh and growing well, so that's about all that we need to do. The bark came off easily. Yeah, we're going to be using our Oncidium mix, which I'll link here with Repotting the Aliceras. It explains what mix we're using here. Okay, so we just put this in on top of the large bark until our plant is going to be at the right height. Remember to keep your mix damp before you planting orchids into it. We don't want the mix absorbing moisture away from the plant. And then we just fill in around. Making sure the plant is nicely set in. We want it fairly centralized. So this specific type of orchid is basically going to be growing from all the way around. So it will give you a nice full pot at the end. Making sure not to press down too heavily so you're not pushing out all the air gaps. There we go. And when this comes back into flower again, it's going to make a magnificent show that you can either put indoors or on a patio, and you'll be the envy of your neighbors. In this shallower pot, we're going to be putting in the Miltonia. This will do better in a shallower pot. It's a smaller orchid and much shallower rooted. So what we're also going to do is just squeeze around the bottom to remove the pot. Try not to disturb the Miltonia's roots too much, they fine and break off easily. Okay, so immediately you can see this has filled up the pot nicely and it's going to make a wonderful effect immediately. So we're just making sure we're going to pot the orchid to the same height that the media was previously. Bark in such large pots can be bigger than you would normally do put in for smaller pots, because you're expecting to repot this less frequently, and also with the larger volume of media and the reservoir at the bottom, you're going to need to water it less often. It holds water for longer, and no need to worry so much about it drying up too quickly. So here again, we chose the color of the pot. That's going to look particularly good with the color of flower. There we go. Nice Miltonia. See, a light pot, easy to move around. With this Alicera Sunday Best Yellow, we're going to repot it while it's in flower. It is a pretty hardy orchid, the flowers won't abort, they'll still keep going beautifully. And I'm not going to be disturbing the roots too much anyway, because it's in such a small pot, there's not too much media that's going to need to come out. And this plant is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. There's flowers on and off throughout the year, so it's actually going to appreciate being put into a bigger pot. A little bit of squeezing around the side. And there it's come nice and loose already. I'm not actually going to break the root ball up any. The bark still looks good condition. So we're just going to set this as it is straight into the pot. Measure our height and start filling it around. Again, remember, in the bigger size pot like this, use this one grade of bark up from what you would normally use in smaller pots. For one, you fill in your spaces, your volume quicker, without going through too much media. And secondly, the smaller bark is going to decompose quicker, and you're going to have to repot it sooner. Yeah, we're hoping to get at least 3 years out of this single repot. By then this orchid will have well outgrown the pot, and you would have had so many flower spikes. There you go. Easily done, light, easy to move. This is what you wish you could do with all potted plants. Nothing's going to give you quite as much satisfaction as these orchids will in larger pots. So easy. You'll be the envy of the neighborhood. And you really haven't done that much for it. And they'll reward you over and over again. So, let's keep your fingers green and keep potting.